welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about therapy in a book, because I know therapy is expensive. I know that it is difficult to find a good therapist. So whilst you're in the process of looking, or maybe if therapy at the moment is not necessarily within your price range, there are some books that I think will be absolutely amazing for you to tap into to start your healing journey. It's not a replacement for therapy, but it is very helpful in helping you to explore your own journey and relationship with yourself. And as I go through, I will talk about what it is that the book is about without going into too much detail. And if you're challenged with a particular issue or whatever it is, if that will be a book for you. But a lot of these books are very vast in what they offer. So I would definitely recommend just checking them out, going on Amazon. I'll link them all below, and just checking out the reviews, checking out the blurb and all of that kind of stuff, so you can see maybe which one would work for you. And also, there are a lot of videos that these people tend to do, like available on YouTube as well. So if you're not able to buy the books, that's okay. There's going to be loads and loads and loads of free resources online. A lot of them have been part of events and that kind of thing. So it means that you will be able to, absorb some of their knowledge and figure out whether you like them without actually purchasing anything. Okay, so keep that in mind. So the first one I will share is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. This is Susan Jeffers. And this book is great if you are someone who is learning to step into your stretch zone, do things that scare you so that you can essentially start to live your life more fully. Okay, so if you're someone who is struggling with anxiety, then this is actually a very good book, because anxiety is about fear. It's rooted in fear. And what Susan Jeffers does is essentially tells you all of the reasons why and the background of the reasons why. Even if you feel afraid, you should just go ahead and just do that thing that scares you, because you will learn so much more, essentially. But this book is the first one that I would say is definitely something that you should read as part of your healing journey. Okay, right. The next one is one of my personal favorites. It is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. He has tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff online. So again, if you're not able to purchase the book, that's okay. There's going to be loads of things online. But he also has another book, which I actually haven't read yet, called The Power of Now. More people have heard of The Power of Now. It's a lot about learning to be present in the moment, and letting go of, past unhelpful thinking and that kind of thing, and living more in the present. Whereas The New Earth, I think, has a lot of that, but it also has a lot about understanding your ego and the role in which your ego plays in you navigating your relationships and your life, essentially. So this, if you're looking for something to ground you and to maybe have you think differently about the way you see yourself, but also the way you see the world, then I would definitely recommend this book. Okay, the next one is more of a therapy kind of book, which is Attached. And this is by Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller, MA. This book is great if you are someone who find yourself repeating patterns in your relationships. Sometimes people say, I always seem to end up with the same person, the same type of person. I can't seem to get out of that cycle. This goes into detail about attachment styles, and you're able to kind of figure out your own attachment style, but also make sense of maybe some of the previous partners or even your current partner, as to why maybe you are constantly finding yourself in a conflict with them. I would definitely recommend this book, even if you're not in a relationship or you don't want to be in a relationship or whatever it might be. This will help you to understand your relationships in general and your attachment styles. And I'm always about being able to teach yourself more, being able to learn, sorry, more about yourself. Know thyself. It's the most powerful thing that you could ever do, which is to know yourself. So if you read it for no other reason but just to understand yourself, I would definitely say to get this book. Okay. All right. We're moving. Right. So the next one is No Bad Parts by Richard C. Schwartz. Now this book is like almost like therapy in a book in a way. And I say that because the idea of no bad parts is that you understand that different parts of you have all been created in order to protect you from something. And sometimes I talk about compassionate inquiry and learning to accept yourself. This book is great if you're learning to accept all parts of you, okay? Because there's a lot of different areas that kind of develop in ourselves that go unexplored. But if you are able to kind of understand what those areas are and the purpose that those areas exist, for example, there is nothing wrong with anger. It's actually a way that you use, a tool that you use to protect yourself. It's the kind of thing that this book kind of goes into, in helping you to understand and accept yourself where you are now, but also, interrupt the patterns that maybe you have been repeating over time and you're not finding as helpful as maybe you did when you were younger. So this book is absolutely, absolutely great for it. Okay. Absolutely great. This is definitely like like a therapy in a book. I'm probably going to say that a few times. Therapy in a book, okay? And there's loads of stuff online about Andrew Schwartz and Schwartz and the internal family systems model. Very, very important if you're able to explore your own thoughts and beliefs and that kind of thing, because you're linked to everything. Everything is linked. We are all one. Okay, cool. So the next one, I would say, which I actually haven't read all the way through because it's a thick book. It is thick. This book by Gabor Maté, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. Now, it already says addiction. So you can already imagine if you are someone who is struggling with addiction, and this doesn't the the stereotypical way of thinking about addiction is, it's either drugs, some sort of substance, like alcohol, maybe sex, whatever it might be. But many of us are addicted to different things. Like I have found myself sometimes tapping my phone to light up the screen. And so it became a problem for me when I started just tapping different surfaces for no reason. And I was like, oh, that is terrible that I'm double tapping just random surfaces because I'm addicted to tapping and getting a result to see a notification or whatever it might be. So this is obviously about addiction. Gabor Mate has done a lot of work. He's actually my mentor from afar. So there's another book in here that I also recommend. But this one in particular is more focused around dealing with addiction, okay? And understanding that addiction is not the problem, it's the solution. And I know that sounds really weird, but if you're someone who is struggling, or even if you know someone who is struggling particularly with addiction, then I would recommend this book to them, um, along their healing journey for sure. I couldn't recommend this more, even though I haven't finished reading it. Gabor Mate, as I said, this is probably one of the best books that I've read um halfway through. But get this book. It's very, 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 very good. And there's loads of stuff online about it as well. So that's another thing. Okay, right. This one is a little bit controversial. Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. I say it's controversial because lots of people don't like Brené Brown. But I'm of the generation, or the community even. I'm of the community that just because you don't like everything that the person is saying doesn't mean that you throw out everything that they're saying. Because I actually found this book super, super helpful when I read it. You could tell I read it a long time, well, not a long time ago, not that long, but it's quite in tatters. So I definitely took the time to read this. And the title says, how the courage to be vulnerable transforms the way we live, love, and parent and lead. And I know it says parent and lead, and maybe it's more for her audience, maybe it's more geared towards parents. but I'm not a parent, and I found this book super valuable in terms of recognizing my own or lack of ability to be vulnerable. Now, when you're being vulnerable, I always say to kind of think about what the green flags are in relation to who you can be vulnerable with. But this book is definitely something that um, opens up some questions around how you feel about vulnerability, and what maybe are some of those subconscious thoughts about vulnerability. And maybe you can take some time to explore that for yourself. So if you're someone who is maybe wanting to be a more confident and, push yourself to be out there more and seen and heard, and not punish yourself for example, staying within that safety net of, well, I'm just not going to share anything, then I would definitely recommend this book. Okay, this is a really, really great book. Okay. This one is Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before by Dr. Julie Smith. Now, this is a really good book because it's a great starter book, I would say. And it's a great book that helps with the recognizing and processing and working through the symptoms of the things that you're challenged with. They kind of advertise it as therapy in a book. It really does help with validating your emotions, helping you to learn about emotions, helping you learn about stress, about grief, and all of those things. And even if you are along in your journey, it can be really helpful to get a book like this that I would really call like a starter book. Um, yeah, it's a great book. But if I just quickly mention, like I said, it's got section. You don't have to read it from beginning to end, which is really great as well. You can just pick anywhere depending on what challenge you're facing. And you've got on emotional pain, like I said, you've got on grief, you've got on self-doubt, so like dealing with criticism and disapproval. You've got a section on creating a meaningful life, those kind of things. So I would say this is a great starter book. But if you are also someone who's looking at the results that you're getting, and you're like, yeah, I know this is grief, or I know this is self-doubt, or whatever it might be, this is a great book to go for sure. This book This book is one of my favorite books, but it's extremely dense. And I say it's extremely dense, not to put you off. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. So, not to put you off this book, it's worth the read because it will teach you everything you need to know about trauma and its impact on you as a human being, on your brain, on your body, on your mental health. The Body Keeps the Score is essentially teaching you that even though maybe your mind has pushed back so far some of the trauma that you've experienced, the body keeps the score. So sometimes you might find that being around certain people makes you feel on edge and you don't necessarily know why. It could be, not to diagnose anybody, but it could be that something has happened in your past, that maybe your mind has done the thing that it does to forget it because it's painful, or try anyway to forget it, or put it in a box that's really deep down in the shadows of your mind. It's because it's really painful to think about, but your body still remembers the effect that that experience had on you. And it's so important to understand yourself. I've said this already, to be fair. So important to understand yourself, and this will teach you about understanding your own trauma and, yeah, processing it as well, which is really great. It's got some really great suggestions in here for dealing with anxiety, depression, all of that. Okay, right. Last one. Potentially my favorite one so far because it's Dr. Gabor Maté, The Myth of Normal. So this is also a book that is great for trauma survivors. Um, and it helps you to understand that the normal that there's a portrayal of normal that is not normal, essentially. And learning to understand yourself and understand the world in which we live in is super important, because a lot of the things that we tell ourselves not to do, or the behaviors that we try to shut away, and the emotions that we try to avoid, it actually causes a culture of abnormality. So where you might think that avoiding difficult conversations is normal, actually avoiding difficult conversations or people pleasing or whatever it might be has a huge impact on your body, on your mental health, on the relationship you have with yourself. I won't go into too much detail over this, but this is like the hardback book, but you can get the paperback and it's actually not this big. It's actually this it's bigger than my face. But yeah, this is I don't know if it's my favorite. I like all of them, but this one I'm reading at the moment, I'm almost finished. That's a lie. I'm about third of the way through. But I'm going to continue reading because I absolutely love it. And there's even more books that I can definitely recommend because it's something that I get all the time. But I can't always sit down with everyone to say, okay, read this book and blah blah blah. So I hope that you have found this helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you read any of these books and if you have found them helpful or unhelpful as well. And maybe if you even know of any other books that can be really beneficial for people who may come across in the comments, and ones that you have found, yeah, have made a difference in your life. I definitely have more like on my Kindle and that kind of thing, and Audible and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. I'm happy to do a part two if you want to know all of the other books that I have that I would recommend as well. But these are my in-person physical books because I think I prefer physical books. Anyway, I'm going off again. So have a great day. And I hope to see you next time.